Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, Capital Markets Analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today we've got Whitney Hahn, a subject matter expert with marketing. She's with Graphiti. What is Graphiti? What do you guys do?
So we are a full-service creative agency here in Fremont, and we help with branding, we do marketing, app development, content creation. I mean, you name it, we probably do it.
It's not. I mean, you brought up bud tenders, right? So when you go into a store and there's 2,500 products and the person walking in isn't really familiar with all of those product SKUs, maybe the number one underutilized tool is the bud tender for marketing, branding, sales. And so I think if more companies were to utilize the vendor model where they go around once a month or whenever and have vendor days to explain that to customers, to show their product, but to use that time to teach those bud tenders as that kind of key position between bankruptcy and billions. I use air quotes because you can't file bankruptcy as Schedule 1, but using those bud tenders to describe the products is probably one of the biggest opportunities right now for branding, because people just don't know how else to go in and tell from one product from another, how that product is going to work for them, how it fits their budget, their needs and their wants. And I'm not really sure if there's any other product out there that's specific to that. It's an interesting situation where you're limited on how you can advertise, and then you walk in and you aren't really familiar with the product on top of that.
Right.
So trying to educate and then sell, I think, is one of the most difficult things to do, and that's where the cannabis industry is.
Right. Well, and that's another thing that we've been seeing a lot with different cannabis brands in the industry is that we're emphasizing the importance of educating their sales reps that are selling to these stores, because if they don't know what the brand is and what they're selling and what the story is behind the company, how are they going to convince the bud tender? If you can't tell the bud tender why your product is different than all these other cannabis brands that are trying to get in the store, your chances are very slim. And that's just the first hurdle. Getting your product on the shelves is step one, but now you got to sell it. Now you got to make that product move. And because there are so many restrictions in the cannabis world with advertising and marketing, you've really got to figure out, and you've got to stay on top of all of the rules and regulations and figure out the areas where you can really just full throttle it through. Creating content consistently, or, consistently producing organic social media, or geo-targeting using the digital space, And if you don't want to learn that stuff, hire somebody, because you will have a competitive advantage over all these other brands that are not investing in marketing and branding because they don't see the value. But by the time that they do see the value, it makes you wonder, is it going to be too late?
Right. I mean, traditional cues for purchasing is based on price and convenience. So these bud tenders are constantly being asked, what's the highest percentage at the cheapest price? And so some of the blunders that we're seeing is packaging being turned around because that data is on the back. So you spend $50,000 to have somebody come up with, a fancy logo, and you pay $40,000 for the packaging, and who knows how much for the production of that product. But when that bud tender then turns it around and you can no longer see all that hard work with the branding and the marketing and even the window for the product, all of a sudden you are solely left to that bud tender's recommendation for your product to be seen, which isn't really like anything else. If you go to a grocery store, some of those soda manufacturers, they have employees that put that product on the shelf so that your logo is facing the customer at all times. And we don't have that. The shoe companies at a mall will make sure that there's rapport with the management and that their products are selling. And you don't have that in the cannabis industry to the same degree, because bud tenders are the ones that are putting all the packaging on the wall, and there's not a lot of interaction for new products, new types. There's not a lot of data for why the purchasing decisions are being made. So until that happens, it's kind of anyone's guess without asking the budtender, without looking at the data. There's a lot of these companies just going in blind, and that can be seen by these packages turned around. And that's mostly because in Washington, it's not, and then the stores don't own the grow, so it's not vertically integrated. Whereas in Colorado, that store might own the farm as well, and they package it and everything in between. So every state is different. The industry isn't unison yet. It's not a whole. There's regulatory changes that are smacking people in the face. So business as usual is impossible, which is kind of hindering a lot of these companies and queuing them up for consolidation, in my opinion. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. I want to thank my guest, Whitney Hahn. She's a subject matter expert in marketing. She's with a company called Graphiti. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How can people get a hold of you?
They can reach me at my email. So it's whitney@graphiti.com, and Graphiti is spelled GRAPHITI.com.
And I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.